What's going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and it's Monday, which means it's typically time for me to drop an Amalgam series video. But I'm making a couple slight tweaks to the channel, just with me always dropping the name of the character on Friday, doing my interviews every Wednesday, and having the Amalgam series on Monday. It just took up too much time that I wasn't able to throw in some other videos that I wanted to, and I really don't want to do more than 3 a week. So Monday's going to start to become a wild card. I'm not getting rid of the Amalgam series, but it could be just whatever I feel like I want, content I want to put out, and I'll keep the interviews on Wednesday, and I'll keep the Name That Character on Friday, and focus in on Monday could be whatever I decide. So it could be Amalgam series, it could be a mystery unboxing, it could be more content that Mrs. Beard and myself are creating, which I'm excited to start sharing with you guys down the road here. But what really spawned this for me was I needed to talk about Batman. I have not talked about my love for Batman enough on this channel, and I said, you know what, I gotta make that happen. So today's video, I'm going to run down real quick my top 10 favorite villains in the Batman universe. And why I'm doing this is because I want to talk about these villains, but I want to shoot some videos where I'm looking at each villain more specifically. So that way we can talk about their first appearances. We can talk about what are some of my favorite story arcs. What are some of my favorite iterations, whether it's in TV or in movies or in comics or video games. We'll get into all these details more. But before I go into each of these characters, I said, you know what? I should at least tell you guys where I put them in my rankings. So with that being said, let's talk comics.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus.
All right, gang, like I said, I'm going to run through this fairly quick because I want to spend more time digging into these characters in their separate episodes throughout when I feel like I want to talk about them. Like, I know my number one person, I want to drop a video really soon talking about their first appearances and what are some of my favorite story arcs in the Batman universe. So with that being said, let's take a look at what is my top 10 favorite Batman villains. Now keep in mind, these are my favorites. They might not be the best for you guys, but they're my favorites. And let's start with an honorable mention. Coming in just outside the top 10 is the King of Fear himself, the Scarecrow. Love so much about the Scarecrow and just barely missed out on the list. So Scarecrow just missed the top 10 and is your honorable mention. Coming in at number 10, we have Ras Al Ghul. That's right, gang. We have Batman's famed arch nemesis, who popular with Neil Adams comic. Very popular in the movies and in the animated series. Really cool character and adds so much to the Batman universe that there's no way Ras Al Ghul can't make the list. And we'll talk about all those important elements that he adds to the universe of Batman. Coming in, though, at number 9, one of the most slept on characters, in my opinion, in the Batman universe, and that is Dr. Hugo Strange. Gang, he's one of Batman's earliest villains. People don't talk about him enough, but his roles in Batman the Animated Series, his roles in the Batman Arkham City game, Hugo Strange is one of the few that I think can go intellectually toe-to-toe with Batman, and when he's used properly, he is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to a Batman villain. Again, Hugo, I feel like, is slept on a lot, and people probably are like, he shouldn't make your top 10 over Scarecrow or some of these others that don't make my top 10, but guess what? It's my list. I do what I want to do. Coming in at number 8 on the list is Poison Ivy. You know Poison Ivy, what she brings to the Batman world is fantastic. Her relationships with Harley Quinn as of late, what she brings in with her connection with plants and bringing that world and element into Batman comics, it's just really is a cool thing to see. So number 8 on the list is Poison Ivy. Coming in at number 7 on the list is the Penguin. That's right, the Penguin's been around for so long with his roles in Batman 66, the original TV show, in the animated series, in Batman Returns, Danny DeVito playing him, what he's going to be playing here real soon when Colin Farrell's playing him in the new Batman movie. So Penguin has been around since the get-go, I feel like, with Batman. He just isn't one of my favorites. Like, the bird stuff doesn't work as much. Like, when he's written well, when it is the gangster aspect of the Penguin, that's when it's a thing of beauty. And so I can't wait to see this new iteration, what they'll do here coming up in the movie. So coming in at number 7 on the list, the Penguin. Number 6 on the list, probably higher than a lot of people have this villain. But for me, you gotta have Clayface. Clayface is such a cool character. You can take there are so many different iterations of Clayface throughout the comics. People who have portrayed Clayface in the books. His roles in Batman the Animated Series, really, really good episodes. Again, not one that gets a lot of great roles in the comics, but he's a really cool character, and that's why, like, this is one of those characters I want to, like, do a kind of a separate video of and talk about what are some of my favorite Clayface stories to recommend, to say, hey, maybe this is something to check out if you're getting some of the heavy hitter fatigue of these villains. So coming in at number 6 on the list is Clayface. Now we are into the top 5. Who's it gonna be? Who's my top dog? But number 5 on the list is Bane. Good golly, I love Bane. There's nostalgia for me Bane's one of the first villains that I remember reading the comics. I grew up in the span of the Nightfall series in the 90s, with the whole breaking Batman's back. And so for me, he has always been portrayed in my mind as one of the toughest dudes around, and that comic holds up for me nostalgically. Nostalgically? Is that even a word? It holds up because it means so much. It was something that got me into comics, and I will always have a love for Nightfall because of that. And reading those issues over and over again. And again, Bane's one of those characters, when he's done well, here's looking at you, Batman and Robin, and not made to look like a fool or just a thug, but when he actually shows that he's brains and brawn, that's when you get a really good Bane. So number 5 on the list is Bane. Number 4 on the list for me is Mr. Freeze. That's right, gang. We are talking about the cold-hearted Mr. Freeze. Heart of Ice, though, if you really are thinking about it. Such a great character. His origin story in Batman the Animated Series made him a legit character. It took him from the kind of joke character that he was in Batman the 66 TV show, and even in the comics leading up to this, Mr. Freeze they couldn't figure out who they wanted Mr. Freeze to be. But when that Origins episode, A Heart of Ice, in Batman the Animated Series, and they set that story for Mr. Freeze, I think it took the trajectory of his character in a way that was fantastic. And he's been, I think, a fan favorite for a lot of people moving forward. So number 4 on the list is Mr. Freeze. Coming in at number 3 on the list, you would think he's 2, but he's not. He's 3, even though his name is TwoFace. Don't worry, gang, I'll be here all night. love the dynamics of Harvey Dent, Two-Face, someone who was a good person, like who was prevalent in Gotham City lore and the society and was scarred and is always having this internal struggle with trying to have the two identities of Two-Face and Harvey Dent. And that dynamic that it brings out in Batman and Bruce Wayne and some of the stories and iterations, I think is really cool to see that transpire. And Two-Face has some of the really best comic stories from that mindset for me because of that. But that's what I love about Two-Face. That relationship that he has with Bruce Wayne, Batman, it adds some story arcs and storylines that we don't get in the Batman universe if we didn't have Two-Face there. So number 3 on the list is Two-Face. Number 2 on the list of my favorite Batman villains, the Joker. I love the Joker. I do. And I get it. People are fatigued with Joker. The Joker War. The 3 Jokers. Joker's getting a new series. I get it. People have Joker fatigue. But good golly, gang, there's a reason that they put Joker in so much, because Joker is a phenomenal character. You don't talk about Batman and not talk about the Joker. You talk about Batman and Joker just probably as much as you would talk about Batman and Robin, right? Like, they go together so much that you can't separate the two. Some of the best story arcs, some of the best portrayals of him in movies and in TV. Hands down, the Joker is one of the best Batman villains, and most would probably say the best. And if you wanted to argue with me on it, I wouldn't disagree. But again, we're talking about my favorite. And the one person that knocks off the Joker as my favorite Batman villain is Edward Nygma, the Riddler. I love the Riddler. And I tell people this all the time, and I get asked a lot, well, what's your favorite Riddler comic? And that's what has inspired this to shoot these videos, because I want to talk about what are some of my favorite stories from the Riddler. I want to talk about some of my favorite iterations of the Riddler, like Frank Gorshin, 1966 Batman TV series. He was only in like 2 episodes in the animated series, but they were great. And that, I think the Riddler is another one of those characters, when he is done correctly, man, he's great. And so I'm going to talk about what are some of my favorite Riddler issues here when I do a Riddler episode eventually. But that's what inspired this series. I want to talk about just Batman, my love for Batman, why, villains that make Batman the way he is. So that's my top 10 favorite Batman villains. And before you hit me in the comments with this, Catwoman didn't make the list because in my mind, she really isn't a super villain. And I think the love interest that you get with Batman and Catwoman, you've seen in the movies, you've seen it in the TV shows, you've seen it in the comics. She's not a villain to me right now, but who knows, that could change. But she definitely is one of my favorite characters, but just not a villain. So she didn't make the top 10 villain list right now. You got to be meaner right now, Catwoman, if you want to make the top 10 villain list. Stop trying to hook up with Bruce Wayne. So that's it, gang. Hopefully you guys are enjoying just some of these videos that are dropping. Let me know, who are some of your favorite Batman villains? Are there some that made the list that you don't like, that wouldn't make your list? Who didn't make your list? What order would you put them in? All that fun jazz. And if you liked the video, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. But again, leave comments. I want to know. I want to talk Batman comics so much with y'all. So start leaving those comments. And as always, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a Batman book, and nerd out. Peace.